All right, good morning. It is the Wednesday, June 4th Urban Economic Development Committee meeting. I'm Councilor Bellis chairing this meeting. First item on the agenda, call this meeting to order. Second item, we're going to be kind of trying to be breezy. This is a long agenda. Second item, rezoning application Z7810 from CS and RS3 to RS3 to RM3 for multiple lots located at the southwest corner of East 31st Street South and South Winston Avenue. This is in Council District 9. TMAPC voted 9-0 to recommend rezoning. And we're pulling up some planning office materials. Okay.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Susan Miller with the Planning Office. So the first one is a rezoning, and this is an interesting area. I know Councilor Bush is very familiar with this. This is and maybe some of the rest of you are as well. So 31st Street and Yale, it's on Winston Avenue, which is just a little bit west of Yale Avenue. There's several lots here. There's a few that are zoned CS, commercial shopping, and then a couple on the south side that are zoned RS3. So the request here is to rezone the entirety, which is almost 3 acres, to RM3 for apartments. So, that's not very good. Okay, so of course, a few houses, some commercial buildings, all of that, of course, would be taken down. It is partially multiple use and neighborhood. This is a residential use, so it fits in the land use plan. This is the concept. Concept is, of course, this is just straight zoning RM3, but the concept is 136 apartments. And there's, this site plan wouldn't be exactly like this, but generally speaking, it might change as it goes to permitting and things. So, the applicant met with the neighbors, and I think Counselor may have been there as well.
Yes.
We had 2 people speaking at Planning Commission about this. One was in favor of it. The other it was pretty interesting, really. It was, I don't have the mouse. But anyway, it was a commercial business that hadn't even gone in yet. I think a groomer, like a dog groomer on the east side of Yale, just right in that vicinity. And they were concerned about traffic. So we're really happy that this apartment project has really kind of gone through with a lot of positive feedback. And it was, I do believe it was unanimously recommended for approval.
All right, Councilor Bush?
Yeah, to reiterate, the developers, there's some apartments that are on Jamestown around 37th off Harvard, just east of Harvard. And for years, they were kind of not in the best shape. A lot of nefarious activity. They actually bought a couple of them and fixed them up. If you drive up and down Jamestown now, it's a whole different vibe, and we don't have a lot of the issues. So I believe the person that spoke in favor of that, she also spoke up at the neighborhood meeting that we had, because everybody's concern was, it's all going to be Section 8, you're putting on the homeless here, blah, blah, blah. The usual. And I appreciate their concerns, but I'm just saying, these developers, this is going to be a nice cleanup on the skirt of this.
This is also just generally, again, but some of the concepts of the facades.
Yeah. And they like this location because it's close to the VA. They're hoping the mid-level young professionals, easy access to work, shopping.
Awesome. Makes sense. Councilor Dr. Wright?
I'm glad that this one is being affirmed and embraced by the counselor and the community. And I know this isn't your sentiment, but Section 8 helps people not be homeless.
I know.
And in our community, we're about to have
Big problems.
a big problem of the people who currently have vouchers losing them. So I know you know that. It just reiterates to me that we need to continue to educate, and none of us created the sentiment around who gets Section 8 or who's using Section 8 or the type of properties, right? And we know that for too long in this community, slumlords have been allowed to take advantage,
Yes.
right? And so I love that they already had a proof of commitment in the corridor.
Yes.
I'm assuming they're local or
Yes.
have local
Yes.
presence. And so those are all the things that we want to affirm and uplift and create a new narrative about the types of housing that we as leaders are going to allow to exist in our community, so, you know.
Absolutely, and I wasn't being negative
No,
about
I
this
know.
Section 8, but
I think you're
that
just
was.
echoing the sentiment we've all heard, right,
Yeah.
is Section 8 equals slumlords, and I think the
Yeah.
opposite is true. Slumlords are allowed to proliferate and take advantage of people who don't have very many options.
Correct. And that was, I think, what was happening on 37th, and, because their property over there does take some vouchers, so,
Sure.
you know, there, it's not, there, and there are other apartments in this area on the Yale access that they're looking at and investing in the future, maybe,
That's great.
so.
And if
Really
they can get through
trying
the
to-
process in a
Yeah.
pretty swift way, that encourages that
Right.
kind of
Being
business.
developer friendly, mixed income,
Yeah.
Counselor Archie.
Yes, well, I, thank you so much. I agree with everything that's been said. I was struck by the letter in the backup material from Jennifer Harmon. She says, Mr. Yardy has already done multiple projects in our immediate area. And so like this idea of having local folks who want to do good, money's being reinvested in the community, you know, even though it's not home ownership, that money is going to a developer that's gonna continue to invest it in Tulsa. I think it's great.
Do you know what the timeline is on, like,
Who's coming online?
yeah, these units being online?
As soon as we get through the processes at City Hall.
Like 36 months, 24? Because it's 138 units, is that what you said?
136.
It is, and
136.
a lot of times what we see too is, and it depends on how quickly they're prepared to move forward with permitting. Sometimes, I mean, I do what I do,
Yeah.
and then it sits forever until they submit permits. So it really depends on that as well.
And there's infrastructure
Yeah.
availability in this?
Yes,
Okay.
they're,
I know you've
the develop.
surfaced that a lot.
Yes, and with some possibilities of, there's a possibility Quick Trip going on in 31st Street, so
Okay.
I've met with them. We've already talked about some of the infrastructure tying into the water, sewer and all of that, and the
Capacities.
Yes.
Because I see a firehouse is there too.
Yes, they've worked with that.
Yeah.
Awesome. I might move, I'm so sorry, I
That's
might
okay.
move this on for time
Yeah,
reasons,
sure.
Yep,
'cause-
it's good.
sorry, I'll be so focused on what time pizza arrives that.
Oh.
Let's go. All right,
Yes.
no, we have a long agenda, I'm sorry everyone, but these are good and important conversations on housing. All right,
We'll just go get
agenda
it and
item
bring it in.
3.
Make us hungry.
Ordinance Z7CA 36, amending the City of Tulsa zoning code, Title 42. Tulsa revised ordinances includes amendments to the City of Tulsa zoning code to add provisions for roof signs and farmers markets. And in the following sections, I'm not gonna read all those sections, but this has to do with roof signs and farmers markets. Go ahead.
Good, I'm glad you don't do
Yeah.
that. Okay, so, you have heard from me about this before when you initiate it, farmer's market and downtown roof signs. I'll just kind of quickly thumb through it. The farmer's market zoning code amendments, these really originated from the health department. I know Counselor Hall Harper was involved in this with us as well. They really wanted it to be really clear what it took to get a farmer's market, and they were correct in that a lot of zoning codes, really treat it as a temporary use. It's not super clear on, and what if someone wants to have it as a permanent use? And so anyway, so we really feel good about what we did in the zoning code. I don't expect you to read this, obviously, but we defined it. It does have other things. It has to be registered with the Department of Agriculture. There are other restrictions as well. It's not just someone setting up a shop in their lot. It has to be at least 6 vendors. So there's some definite criteria about what constitutes a farmer's market for that. And so as a principal use, it's allowed in the districts you would think, I think, the mixed use, office, commercial, industrial corridor, scientific research, a special exception, so in the other districts, more residentially type districts. And it's accessory use in any of those districts where it's a principal use. And anyway, there's some limitations on that. Also, we had to establish parking requirements, and there's a few things about just taking the tents down when it's not in operation, putting it in permanent buildings, if they are tents. It can also be located, a farmer's market can be located in a permanent building. So anyway, that's really, as far as that, I don't know, it's pretty straightforward. It just really kind of makes it clear what those parameters are.
Just as a quick, what was the parking requirement piece for them?
So the parking requirement is 0.85 spaces per 1,000 square feet of permanent outdoor shelters.
Oh, so if it's a permanent farmer's
Right.
market set up there, okay, never mind, okay. Counselor-
And,
Just a quick question. Why does it require a special exception in ag zoned?
Because this is really more of a commercial use, they're not growing on site.
Okay.
And it's more than just one guy anyway, it's at least 6 vendors that set up.
Okay.
Thanks, and that's helpful with the parking part, is just for if it's a permanent farmer's market structure, not the pop-up
Like
ones having
stalls,
to. That's
yeah.
right, okay. Thanks for that clarification. Anything else on the farmer's market from people? Okay,
Yeah, I do.
yes.
Okay, so the Board of Adjustment can give an entity the right to do a farmer's market in a neighborhood?
There would be parameter, I mean, the Board of Adjustment would establish probably conditions for what that could look like, but they would be allowed to ask for it. And
What if I don't like giving the Board of Adjustment that kind of power?
you could strike
What if
that.
I don't want a farmer's market in neighborhoods in various areas of my district?
So that could be stricken when it
I
comes to.
feel warm and fuzzy all of a sudden.
What's that?
Did something happen to you at a farmer's market
I was like, the farmer
once?
markets right now are in
I just can't,
neighborhoods.
I'm just
What did the
trying
farmer's
to
market do to you?
envision like a farmer's market just being set up in the middle of a neighborhood.
Yeah.
I could see it.
And,
I'd be
yet,
happy to watch
I
that.
think some neighborhoods would probably like build themselves around the fact that they have a farmer's market and a park.
I'd be so
And
jealous.
readily access food.
Yeah, I'm fine, I'm not arguing
But I
with
see what
it
you're
being
saying
in a
about it, yeah.
park, I'm just like, yeah, we're gonna do it on 97th Street South.
On a cul-de-sac.
Yeah,
So there's,
uh-huh.
all the
Or to
other
go to the
zoning
BOA and get that approved.
requirements, all the other zoning
then-
requirements would kick in, so it's unlikely, they couldn't meet those just on a regular, single-family
parking.
subdivision, regular lot. But there's a lot of R-zone property in the city that's vacant, large lot, sort of just spread
Okay,
out
say
over.
what you said again, the first part.
So unlikely that they're gonna meet the zoning requirements, because you still have to meet all the setbacks and all of those requirements regardless of what district you're in. So they would have
Okay.
to have a front yard setback, a rear setback, side set, so it would have to meet all of that. So there's no way that it could probably be located on a house with a lot, a lot with a
So could this be
house.
something where if that ends up, like, we could do it this way, and then if an issue arises, we can come back to the table and adjust, like, if, like, it's actually, like, something, what you're expressing concern about comes
Yeah.
to fruition?
There's
If-
that parking requirement that would also probably.
Well, that's only
keep
for
it
a
up.
permanent
Yeah.
setup one, though,
Oh,
not a pop-up.
got you.
I don't know, I'm just wondering. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried more about the pop-up ones, not the permanent
Okay.
ones.
Yeah.
And if something does happen and we do decide to come back and amend this, does it have to go back through TMAPC?
Yes.
Can we?
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a slow process. Counselor Archie, was your question on this?
Yeah, kind of, I was just thinking about like South Haven, they are not close to a grocery store, many of them don't have cars. I wonder if they wanted to set up a pop-up, farmer's market, like in the parking lot, like across from the Dream Center, they would just have to go through the BOA and get the.
I don't know what that zoning is off the top of my
Okay, yeah,
head,
I'm
so
not sure
it's
either,
hard
but-
to
But
know.
also, if that's like a parking lot in a private site, that's
Not a
different than.
cul-de-sac
it's not the
or
same
like
as
a
yeah,
block.
neighborhood.
Yeah, it's
A
already
neighborhood
zoned.
block.
Counselor Bengal,
That
And
one is-
I'm glad you brought this up, Counselor Lakin. My concern is there are pop-ups, there's these accessory uses of residents already. And I'm challenged, just like Phil, about having the Board of Adjustment give that approval, because I already have a challenge with the Board of Approval, granting certain variances and exceptions for
is
things.
this because I bought that tamale out of a trunk?
In your district.
I wasn't calling you out.
She bought a
But it was
tamale out of the
delicious.
trunk of a car, it was so good.
I did not call
That
you
wasn't
out.
a.
So
Yeah.
I already see that
Yeah.
happening in my own district where there's accessory use of properties without permits of any kind. And when I speak to those homeowners and say, do you have a permit? And they get offensive with me about it, I say, well, if you're allowed to do that, then your neighbor's gonna wanna start their business. And then we're just gonna go down the line to
So
where
could we potentially,
problem.
just as a proposed path forward without like this one, because this looks such a specific piece of, if someone were to, per your point, meet parameters, decide to use in the neighborhood, go through a BOA piece, can we just pull that piece out? Cause is this something, like, how did, for that piece going in there, was that just to leave it as a possibility for people, or was
Yes.
someone,
Yes.
have these ever happened in a neighbor? Is there a precedent, do we?
Not here, so Yeah, what we typically see in
think they have
Tulsa
the
are those,
option to.
the
Yeah.
special permits, but that's in the right of way. So this is really regulating it on private property.
Because
So-
obviously this could still like happen right next to a neighborhood at any mixed use area, all these
Right,
other zoning
right.
areas. So it doesn't like preclude something happening
Yeah.
in a neighborhood, just not on a residential street is what we're saying.
Or a zone law.
So maybe we just take the R zone, the AGR and the R out.
The R and the AGR, is that what
Yeah.
you said?
Well, maybe not AGR, cause those are like 1 acre, what is it, 2 acre?
Yeah, that's a one acre.
But they are
We could take the R,
neighborhoods.
yeah.
I was thinking about what Jeannie would say about AGR.
Yeah, cause we talked hard about it.
You're like, you could hear that voice, Counselor
Uh-huh.
Dunnan.
I was just wondering, wouldn't that be considered like a cottage industry? Having something like selling stuff out of your driveway or?
That's a totally different thing than
Okay.
this.
Okay, so
Maybe we just take R out.
I think we just could take that out, and then I would just say, if anyone's listening or watching at home or has concerns about that, and is like, I really actually care about that being in there, please communicate to us and we
Yeah.
can better
Yeah.
understand.
So
But
R, not
Yeah.
AG or AGR, leave those. but
Well, I
take
don't know
out-
about the AGR, it's not, I don't
I
have
don't
AGR
have
in
any
my
expertise
district,
on
that would
this.
be more like Counselor Archie, I don't know, you probably have AGR, you
You'll,
have AGR.
you'll hear from those who do.
Yeah, I like it, I'm, the more
If it's an issue.
food access, the better. So,
So maybe leave, so just taking R out is what I'm hearing right now.
Yeah, cause the density
Okay,
challenges.
or just, yeah, and if there's not a use case, again, if someone presents one to us, then we'll know and we can revisit it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's easy.
I think to your point, there are neighborhood spaces that aren't residentially zoned, like
Yeah.
a parking lot or
Yeah,
a
especially
park
within
or-
our more like urban hubs where you do have that the kind of density that would actually go and walk to a farmer's market within a neighborhood, they have something nearby.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Church,
okay.
park, synagogue, I mean, lots of
Yeah.
things.
Do lemonade stands count?
No, you have to have at least 6
I
vendors.
know.
Unless there's
Well,
6
on a
vendors.
cul-de-sac
So-
of children, that could have.
So will
just
you
six
take care of that,
lines.
or do we have to make that exception whenever we're adopting
2
this?
weeks.
Can we just make that adjustment when we, or work with Lori to strike that or something in the meantime, or do you think they need to make the motion since TMABC recommended it?
The motion's not till next week, or 2 weeks.
Both, I mean, we can sub out the backup, and
Okay.
then the night of, you can clarify that that's the
Okay,
version you're approving.
okay.
Okay.
And we still have 2 more weeks before we put it to a
Oh,
vote.
yeah. I'm just
So
trying to
there's
get it
time
all
amend language.
Okay,
figured
awesome.
out.
This sounds
Thank
like a plan, thank you everyone, rooftop signage.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, this isn't just my pizza interest, it's just because we have animal welfare later and that'll be a meaty topic. Okay, sorry, go
Okay,
ahead.
so roof signs, we discussed this a tiny bit also. So right now, they're only allowed in Route 66 overlay in a downtown entertainment district, which is really kind of the Blue Dome district. It's a very limited geography. So in the proposal, one roof sign is allowed per business address and counts against a lot sign budget. Every property in the city has a sign budget. And so far though, requests for roof signs have, we've seen several lately and they're routinely approved by the Board of Adjustment. I feel like I missed something. Okay, so, I don't know where I've gone here, but maybe these were out of order. Okay, so this is what it does. Allows roof signs in all of CBD, which is downtown for the most part. There's only a couple lots that aren't. Subject to the sign budget, and removing references to this downtown entertainment district. This was created in the, I don't know, pre-2010 for sure, and it's very confusing because it's not on the map, it's just a little bit of text in the code. And then just clarify that that still counts toward a sign budget. We had one speaker, she was concerned about the historic integrity of buildings if they were on the roof. I appreciate that, however, also, right now, you can do wall signs on historic buildings downtown, so.
So also some of our most historic buildings, Canes and the Mayo, have these amazing
Oh,
roof
yeah,
signs.
yeah, so I
Which
mean,
is
I would
like
think
hair
just
cutter
from a
part of it, yeah.
structural standpoint, that wall signs would be more damaging than the roof sign.
Right,
So that was
Yeah.
her comment, though. I'm not sure she fully understood that. We talked to her after the meeting.
great, okay. Yes.
One quick question. So a lot's sign budget can be varied by the BOA?
They
Okay.
can. We don't, well,
You're making Counselor Bingle very
yes,
happy
we do see it
today.
sometimes.
I know, I
Your
just
line of
wanted,
Maybe call them
I just
something
wanted to make
else, yeah.
sure that that was the case. I don't have a problem with the roof sign changes. I don't know how many additional signs that you can have. Like, if you wanna do a roof sign, you already had a whole bunch of other signs. Could the BOA say, yeah, sure, that's fine?
They
So
can,
just-
that's
yeah.
just a sign variance, right? So,
Yeah.
but they have to have a hardship. They have to demonstrate why they would need all that extra signage.
Okay. Yeah. I need to just pay attention more to the BOA and see how many times they accept or adopt those sign variance requests. Yep.
Alright, anything else on rooftop signs?
Like a target
Cool.
this morning.
Yeah,
Oh,
thank you
I'm
so
not talking
much.
to you.
Alright,
I'm
we are
asking
on
questions.
agenda item 4, ordinance adopting the annual assessment rule for Kendall
A lot of
Whittier
power.
Improvement District. Number 1, assessing
Yeah.
those certain parcels of real property generally located along the Lewis Avenue corridor between East Archer and Sixth Street and along East Admiral Boulevard between Yorktown and Birmingham Avenue for the purpose of providing improvements and services set forth in a bunch of stuff. Alright, and we have Sam Extens with us.
Hi, Sam Extance, Planning Office. So this is the ordinance adopting the assessment roll for the Kendall Whittier Improvement District for the next fiscal year. So this impacts 74 total properties, so those are the properties that are included within that bid boundary. Unlike other bids, this has a fixed rate, so the amount doesn't change year to year. We did that in conversation with businesses from the previous improvement district. That way they could budget for it and really fully understand what improvements they were paying for. Other than that, there are just the normal sundry changes year to year, so mailing address changes, and then when properties sell, we have the new property owner listed in the roll.
As a curiosity, does it not change, you said it's, do the other similar districts, the amount does change year to year?
It can,
Okay,
Like the downtown district, right?
yeah, it can fluctuate from year to year, increase.
which I can understand though, of course, I know that means especially with like inflation or things like that, just overall, that's like a limiting factor for Kendall Whittier. Okay. Has anyone, I can understand for the businesses wanting the stability though, has anyone expressed concern about that either way?
No,
Okay. And that includes, like, kind of just, like, the different, I'm thinking about the entities related to Kendall Whittier, like, just some of those are, I know they have revenue concerns, but that nobody's like advocated for changing. Just, okay, Great, anything else?
Maybe they will, now that we've had this conversation.
Maybe, it's just, you know,
Doesn't come for a vote till next week, so
Yeah.
there's time if people,
yeah, I just know flat rates are hard in a shifting economy, so.
and there's 3 counselors that represent that area, so people can reach out for sure.
Yes, that's districts 1, 4, and 3. All right.
The crossroads.
Yeah. The heart of the city now, okay, God's country. Okay, item 5, resolution directing the filing of the annual assessment roll for Tourism Improvement District Number 1, directing the filing of the assessment roll with the Tulsa City Clerk, setting July 16th, 2025 as the date of the public hearing, and directing the notice of public hearing be published 2 times. And we have Benu with us.
Thank you. Binu Abraham with the Finance Department. This resolution will allow us to file the annual assessment roll in the Office of City Clerk, notify property owners and hotel operators, and publish the resolution. The owners of properties in the city that have hotels of 110 or more rooms on the property are subject to the assessment. Owners are assessed 3% of their monthly gross receipts from the sale of rooms at the hotel. The public hearing is set for July 16th. Property owners who believe they are mistakenly included in the assessment have until 5 p.m. on Friday, July 11th, to provide their written objection to the city clerk.
Yeah, this is pretty routine. Any questions, anyone? All right. That was easy.
Thank you.
Do you want to read
I
anything
like
else
it.
to us? Maybe we'll just keep moving on. No.
Appreciate it, thank you.
All right, agenda item 6, ordinance amending the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget to transfer available appropriations of $5,883,850.56 between projects within the TMUA 2024A Water Revenue Bond Subfund and available appropriations of $2,148,529.46 between projects within the TMUA Water Capital Project Subfund. And Jared's gonna
Good morning,
tell us
Jared
about this.
Moore from Budget. This is just transferring the $5 million from Uchi Dam anchoring and $2 million from AB Jewel over to the citywide main replacements and wood pump station. Essentially, those came in under budget, and so the funds are available to be put to other priorities where the needs are exceeding budget right now.
Councilor Archie?
Yeah, we get our water from Uchi Dam, from Lake Hulaga. The water report just came out. And so this infrastructure is helping to create clean, safe drinking water for all of us. So definitely we gotta continue the investments.
Yep. Yeah. Any other, always exciting when a project comes in under
Yeah.
budget, so we'll take it. All
I'll
right.
get said that often.
Yep. All right, agenda item 7. I know I'm like, in this economy? Okay.
Yeah.
Ordinance amending the fiscal year 24-25 budget to make supplemental appropriations of $676,358 recognized from unappropriated fund balance within the TMUA 2024 water revenue subfund. More money being moved around. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I don't know if that's.
So is it this one or, the next one in order wasn't that one?
That first one had that amount on it,
I mean, if I skip reading.
and not in the right order.
Right.
Oh, that's one we just did.
That first one, had that 676 on it. There it
That's
is.
This one?
Yeah,
Mhm.
that was the one that was up you were talking about.
Yeah, that's the number. Yes.
So you're gonna see a general theme to all the items on my list today, where essentially we're moving funds into citywide projects, to get the best bang for the buck, and there's a whole bunch of things under those banners that need finished, but essentially this one is there was, $873,000 of bond premium from the sale of these two, debt issuances that needed put towards projects. This was at the recommendation of our bond council, and so we're putting those funds to a water main replacement in, both of the, sub-funds.
Okay. All right.
Is there,
I'm sorry, yeah.
I'm trying to agree. Does it indicate where those projects are? That the
No,
monies are
we
being
could
shifted to?
follow up, but I think they'll probably fill in deficiencies on lots of different projects, probably.
So it'll be multiple?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'd like to know where those are.
Could we find that out for both of those items related to money going into other projects?
The districts.
Yeah.
6 and 7,
Yeah.
items 6 and 7.
6 and 7.
Oh, you might already know.
We've got a couple projects in mind.
So it hasn't been determined?
Not all of it, we have some of it, so we've got a list of water main replacement projects that we just have ongoing, and some of them is for Berry Hill, they're getting, new water lines, I think they've got 2-inch water lines, they're going to 6-inch at Berry Hill. And then there's also the neighborhood at 56 in Columbia that has a lot of turbidity, they're
Yay.
getting new lines, that project is also, so, as the design,
Voting no.
we're going to appropriate. So that's why they go into water main replacements, so that as these priority projects come up, we can replace water lines.
Okay, I'd like to know when they come to mind.
Yeah.
I feel ya. So I know they're all over the city.
They're all over the
So,
city, yeah, yeah.
But when we can report, hey, this is gonna get done.
Yeah.
We didn't
It would be
anticipate it.
nice to
It would be
know.
nice for us to be able to tell that to our constituents.
Also ahead of
At our town
construction.
hall
Ahead
meetings.
of-
Yeah, they gotta
ahead of-
notify ahead
Yeah,
of
we have to
construction.
notify, yeah, so
I
the
know,
design
but
is
still
underway
people-
for both of them, so this is just,
You have to notify the residents, but the council is not often notified that, like, hey,
Hey, a neighborhood in your community is gonna have this, and so then we start getting those calls, so if there's any way that can also be.
Yeah, if we could get notified of the neighbors too, that'd be cool.
Or-
I will make sure that.
There must be
I
a,
get a little
There is
list.
We do have a design list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so we can say, hey, this is
Yeah.
coming.
Part of it is
Be looking for an official notice from the government in your
That would be
box,
helpful.
because sometimes they're also like, I got something, but I don't know what that, you know.
Yeah, we can make sure that council is notified when the designs are complete for neighborhood water main
That would be
replacements.
awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I will add that to our
That would
list.
probably limit the.
All right, so, yes, Counselor,
Does
I'm sorry,
the-
Sarah Davis, here.
does the-
Just adding you to the council, yeah.
She's
Does
our
the-
town counselor.
Does the project, does that answer the question on 6 and 7, or is there additional follow-up being asked,
Yeah, I
besides
just
the
wanted to
notice
know where
stuff?
the,
No,
what
it
projects
sounds
the
like
funds
just
were
the
going
advance
to.
notice and where they're going, yeah.
Okay, so no additional
No.
follow-up.
But, and then just like
Okay.
the future, not just for these projects, but for other ones, if we can get advance notice.
Yes.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Anytime counselor can get communication would be gold stars for
Yeah,
everyone.
it is always cool to know stuff before it happens and not find out.
So we're not reacting to everything.
Yes.
I will let you guys know when the
That's
design
not
is
just directed at
complete.
y'all.
Thank you so much. All
Water
right,
and
agenda item 8, ordinance amending the fiscal year 24-25 budget to make supplemental appropriations of $10,000 recognized from grant revenues to be received from the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railway Foundation within the Public Safety and Protection Non-Federal Subfund Crime Scene Lighting. Well, now I'm curious. It sounds
Well,
nice. Yeah.
It's kind of
Intriguing.
self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Crime scene lighting.
BNSF awarded a $10,000 grant to the police department for crime scene lighting that they will use in railway properties and areas that fit the geographic confines of the grant award. But essentially gonna buy lights with it.
This is very generous of the railway.
Yeah,
Councilor
it was
Parker.
unexpected.
Again, can you get a list of where they're gonna be located?
Because that's, yeah.
I can ask,
That'd
I'm
be
not
great.
aware.
I just have a question about the term crime scene lighting. So is it lighting to deter crime, or is it once a crime has happened, they're lighting it up to see what happened?
I believe it
The
was.
same song.
Like they bring in portable spotlights? Okay, so it's just like safety
I would think.
enhancements
Right.
to the corridor.
Yeah.
Crime scene lighting sounds like a big device that comes in to like illuminate the whole
I
scene.
know, instead of public safety, it's a crime,
It's like a-
it's
crime
instead of
deterrent.
public
Like
safety
they would
lighting,
use
it's
an
crime
infrared.
lighting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A black light to
Or,
find
or it's like,
crimes.
it's telling us that these areas are already crime scenes.
Yes.
I would think that it would be to deter crime.
Yeah, I hope
To like
that's.
illuminate dark spaces where nefarious activity is taking place. Well, that's encouraging that the railroad is
You know, they have,
helping us.
yeah, just for
Okay.
kind of reference for constituents, the railway has more sovereignty than any governing body
Yeah.
you could possibly imagine. All right.
Which is why the districts where they're located should probably get advance
Yeah, no,
notice. Yeah.
Yes. All right,
The
moving
projects.
on to more security things. Number 9, ordinance amending the fiscal year 24-25 budget to make supplemental appropriations of $10,000 recognized from grant revenues received from Oklahoma Department of Homeland Security within the Homeland Security Program subfund for cybersecurity training.
U.S. Department of Homeland Security awarded a pass-through grant through the Oklahoma Department of Homeland Security to our IT department for $10,000 for them to, for several staff to have conference fees, travel, and et cetera for a cybersecurity conference.
Great, all right. Okay, item 10, that sounds good. Ordinance amending the fiscal year 24-25 budget to transfer unencumbered and unexpended appropriation balances of $120,946.56 between projects within the 2006 Special Extend Sales Tax Fund, $4, oh wow.
I don't know what we're gonna do with that.
Don't know.
Between projects and, yeah,
The $4.
yeah, tell us more about the $4, and then obviously there's bigger amounts, but that seems really important.
Yeah. It's, we talk about this a lot in finance, that we're kind of painted in a corner a little bit as far as the restrictions on movement of dollars between projects, so that's why we bring $4 things
Sure.
here, but it has a process in place for that. But the overall story of this is, with IoT3, there was a project that put $90-some million towards the deficit of inflationary increases that we had in all of our pre-existing projects. And there was a commitment, that did not cover all of the inflationary, so there was a commitment to go through all of the existing projects as they're completed, as they come in under budget, sweep those funds into the arterial and non-arterial citywide projects to cover that gap, so we didn't have to find additional resources, and that's what's happening in here. Every one of these projects we're taking from are complete, and so we're moving the residual balances in each of these bond funds into citywide arterial or non-arterial rehabilitation.
And just flagging for my colleagues, there's a little list at the bottom of the item that includes parts of 61st Street South, Pine Street, 91st Street, Sheridan, Mingo, Garnett, Charles Page Boulevard, and Riverside, which for my district, obviously I see Charles Page on there.
No, this is coming
That's
from
coming
those
Oh, wait, it's coming
projects.
from, wait, there, oh no, I
These
want
are-
them to
what,
go
but
too.
if you
Can
look-
we do
no,
that? Sorry,
look.
It doesn't
I
say
misread
where
that,
it's
was my
going
pregnancy
to.
brain, but can we take this
Well,
to the
it's
rest of
going
that?
to fill these
It's got the
gaps
maintenance
on the
Of where?
IoT2 projects and
I
IoT1
know,
projects.
that's what I'm asking, where is it going to?
Yeah, where is it going?
So
Can it go back to
we put a
Charles
gap
Page?
fund in of 94 million, I
think
think,
it-
to
yeah.
cover an IoT3, but what I just heard
Just
him
the-
say is
Was that
that
we
wasn't
used-
the full amount because they
You summoned Paul Zachary with our
they
questions. Yeah.
anticipated
You're
these fund balances also kind of filling the gap.
Very well put.
I listen
Filling the
and
gap.
reflect.
Paul Zachary, Public Works. In the bond issue side, every project gets its own character string. So it's very specific in the bond issues if we have shortfalls. So unless we put that in a citywide type, we do keep it consistent with the original title, be it non-arterial or arterial. And on the maps that we provided you all for your council updates, those are all the list of projects. We had a $146 million projected shortfall in the program just due to cost increases. We got 93.8 of that in IOT3, and the rest we looked at. We are not changing the extent of the projects, but anytime we have any savings, the Charles Page, for instance, we got into some concrete. It was a lot worse off than what we thought, so we are sweeping some of the $4 and some of the others all into those projects. So our commitment is to complete the projects as they were voted on in IOT 1, IOT 2, and what's going to be in IOT 3. So the methodology that we go to citywide, it is those projects that are listed on the maps that we've given you in your various council districts. So that's exactly where it's going. We're not creating new projects. We're only committed to finishing those that were voted on. So when you see those, yes, the citywide, we would have to come back here to move $50, $75, or if we put it in citywide, then we can commit to complete all those projects that are in any of the council districts 1 through 9. So that's the methodology, but there are no new projects. This is not, like I'll just say, one year we had a lot of savings in one project and we moved to a new project, Comanche Park, some work. This one is only going to existing voted on projects. There are no new projects with this one.
Like, the takeaway is all of those projects under arterial and non-arterial were identified in like the engineering books or anything. There is a list, and so just whether it gets 100,000 or 101,000 is kind of why we're putting it in the citywide projects.
And the prioritization is still there,
It's-
right?
Right, we're gonna finish them all, one way or the other.
But I mean, the priority order of completion.
Based on the,
Absolutely, as they're listed now. So if you
Yes.
had any on your,
So it's not like it would if there's a cost savings realized in my district, we don't get to fast track item number 10 on the list in my district to go higher, because it's going citywide.
the order that the
Yes.
appropriations are in now is being
Yeah.
held. We're not changing the timing of the money, we're just adding so that we don't have to cut back as much
And
on
you
the
said it was
scope of budgets.
149 million identified gap.
There's 146 million before IOT 3 came in.
With the 94.8.
And we got, I think 93.8 or 94.8, I may be.
93.8,
You're not gonna
93.8.
There's a
hit me on a
$53
point
there's a
too.
$53 million.
Exactly, that's being
So-
fueled by things like
That's
this.
this.
So we
In
have
very
about
$4 increments.
Right.
We are value engineering, we're doing
Sure.
everything we can, but we, as we told, I'll just say previous counselors, Counselor Q is we are not shrinking.
Yeah.
The maps that are showing the extent of the work, we are going to do
Yeah.
the work to those extents, and that's what we're working towards.
well, I hope with transfers of things like $4, people know that the city is literally paying
Down to the
attention down to
penny.
the penny.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah, 07,
All right.
cents, yeah.
Good.
Thank you so much, that's helpful clarification. Anything else on 9? All right, thank you. Item 10,
You wanna stay?
well, we still might, yeah, maybe still.
That was 10.
Yeah, maybe stay.
That was
Call.
10.
Ordinance amending the fiscal year 24-25 budget to transfer unencumbered and unexpended appropriation balances. Let's see, this is a lot of things being transferred from various GO bond sub-funds dating back to 2014 through 2020.
Yes, I believe so. Sorry, I have a hard time seeing. that.
Yeah, so do I.
That is the right one. And this is the same story, just now in sales tax funds. This is again part of that commitment to identify existing savings to cover that pre-existing gap.
All right.
Very good, thank you all.
Sounds like a
Thanks,
plan.
Paul.
Okay, item 12, ordinance amending the fiscal year 24-25 budget to make supplemental appropriations of $7,500 recognized for grant revenues to be received from the Oklahoma Department of Homeland Security within the Homeland Security Program Subfund for Fire Department staff training.
This is a Homeland Security grant to our fire department, and it's going to pay for conference fees, round-trip airfare, lodging for 3 staff members to attend urban search and rescue training at a conference there.
Great, okay. Item.
Can I ask a quick question?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Will any of this be used to help pay for overtime as those firefighters are going for training? Just wondering.
I don't believe so.
It's just for the training?
It's just for training.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Item 13, ordinance amending the fiscal year 24-25 budget to make supplemental appropriation of $50,000 recognized from grant revenues to be received from the cities for financial empowerment within the non-grant miscellaneous special revenue fund legacy planning services training.
So this is very straightforward, just the names are kind of wonky now. July 1st, it'll become Department of Resilience and Equity, but right now it's the Moore office. They receive funds from the cities for financial empowerment, and they will be using them to continue what they're already doing, providing legacy planning services through the Financial Empowerment Center, financial counseling services, et cetera.
Okay. Makes sense. Can someone click to that slide just real quick?
$50,000.
Okay, that's okay. Well, that makes sense though. So
There it is.
we're getting a
That's
grant,
it.
yeah.
That's it.
Okay, great, getting a grant. Any questions?
Yeah, it's a grant, right?
And I think I know we had that recent presentation that included about legacy planning and some of the different
Yeah.
factors. Okay, item 14, ordinance amending the fiscal year 24-25 budget to transfer unencumbered and unexpended appropriation balances of $115,955 between account groups within the DNA backlog reduction subfund, forensic DNA backlog reduction.
This is within the police department, is the 2024 DNA backlog reduction grant they had received. These changes were approved through the grantor, so we're just tidying up the financial side on our end. And essentially, there were savings in personal services. We have confirmed with the police department, lab staff, et cetera, that there won't be any issues as far as I know that is often a concern. So we're using those, they're using these funds to purchase additional sexual assault kit testing, surveillance assessments, and workstations for the lab. Basically filling in material needs that they have for their work.
Can you remind, is this a multi-year grant, or have we've gotten this a few years in a row, or it's
We've just
part of-
gotten it in annual iterations.
Okay,
But yeah, each grant itself is for a one-year term.
okay, great. But but this is separate from, or is this all part of one, because I think we've seen other ones that had to do with clearing backlogs, or is this, there's
Yes,
other?
there are others.
Okay, just checking. All right, item 15, ordinance adopting the first supplement to the 8th revision of the Tulsa Revised Ordinances, codifying ordinances enacted between June 12th, 2024 and October 16th, 2024, providing certain exceptions for ordinances excluded, providing the repeal of certain ordinances, protecting pre-existing rights, providing for copies to be deposited with the city clerk, providing for distribution of copies to state departments and others, and providing for the sale of copies. This has the emergency clause.
Good morning, councilors. This is just our routine periodic update of our codification of the ordinances you've already approved.
Okay. Well, that's good. We would like those to become law. Okay, item 16, resolution authorizing a designated official to submit a joint application with the Tulsa Public Schools for the Oklahoma Opioid Grant Award, finding extraordinary need to combat the opioid crisis in the city of Tulsa. This has the emergency clause. And we have Emily Hall maybe joining us to talk about
Yes.
it. Yes.
I think Dr. Hubbard's coming back in as
Okay.
well to speak to part of this grant as
Okay.
well. So this is, a continuation. Part of this is a continuation, and Sarah's passing out the resolution. The Tulsa Public Schools, the last opioid grant we received was in partnership with Tulsa Public Schools, and this is a continuation of that work that's being done, as well as just some ongoing funding around the governance board, communications, and the fire department, which was funded last time, and this is a continuation of all of those programs. The piece that is new in this grant ask, it revolves around housing. One of the models is Housing First, and that is what our Away Home for Tulsa Continuum of Care operates in, a Housing First model. And within that is permanent supportive housing and rapid rehousing, and we know that 20 to 22% of our homeless population has a substance abuse, opioid abuse, or mental health issue. And this would allow for that recovery to take place, as well as to get them through either rapid rehousing track or permanent supportive housing track.
Could you clarify real quick? Because I know this is in conjunction with Tulsa Public Schools. Is that piece of it specific to Tulsa Public Schools families, or this is just a separate
No, this is,
component?
the Tulsa Public School, there's different components of
Okay.
it. So
Okay.
what, the housing is separate.
Okay.
Rebecca can speak to the Tulsa Public Schools. That's a continuation on from what we've been doing.
Okay. Counselor Archie?
How much is the grant? For some reason, I didn't see it. Do you know how much it is for?
The award.
The award?
We're asking $5 million.
Okay, $5 million. And do you know how much, like, the breakdown would be? How much is the housing portion versus the education portion?
The housing is 4.3, and everything else is 700.
Approximately.
Approximately, I mean, it's, yeah.
So the bulk of it's going to housing.
Mhm.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Is the fire department part of this related to the continued ART funding?
No.
Or no?
No, they have an opioid response team.
Okay, separately from the, okay,
And that is what was started with Cycle 1.
okay.
When is the, of course, this is from the state. When does it due?
June 13th.
Okay.
Hence the emergency
So that's the
clause.
emergency clause on why it's
Yes.
on for today. What, is it time bound, the grant award?
3 years.
And can we do the amount of housing that 4.3 million would do, the way that you just described?
Yes. It will, yeah, essentially what it does is follow the individual. And so it would be scattered site versus one,
Okay.
identifying one location, but it would be scattered site apartments through rapid rehousing track or permanent supportive housing track.
Counselor Devon?
So I'm wondering what the number of housing possibilities we're looking at. I mean, I'm looking at, there's the rapid rehousing. I'm confused as to exactly what that looks like, because I have not seen any detailed plans for rapid rehousing and resources for that, or the permanent supportive housing and recovery support. What does that look like, and how many apartments or housing units are we looking at?
Sure. So given the situation with the vouchers, that's gonna play into how many people can be served. In an ideal world, you have the opportunity to offset some costs with first month's rent or whatever that may be through this, and then they have a voucher. Without the voucher, you'll have to cover some of the rent costs. But a rapid rehousing track provides wraparound support services usually if people need it for up to a year. A permanent supportive housing could be up to 3 to life. So it depends on what direction that individual is, and it's gonna be an individual case-by-case basis. We need, people need support in getting into housing, and this provides an opportunity to focus on the 20 to 22% that have a opioid or substance abuse addiction, to get them the support they need, and then on to permanent stable housing.
And we're gonna be separately directing out these dollars to those agencies to
Sure.
do that?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other council questions?
I just,
Yeah, oh, sorry,
I
I'm sorry.
might have missed
Councilor
the,
Gregory, yeah.
so with this 5 million, is there an estimate of how many can be served in this 3-year period?
It could be, well, depending on the housing cost piece, because that's still in limbo with the voucher.
This is built on an idea that somebody would have a voucher.
Right, so that piece is still in limbo.
Yeah. I would think so.
If, it could serve anywhere between 200 to 400 people.
People or households, like
Well,
individuals?
yeah, an individual person.
You said 200 to 400?
Yeah, it depends
Or
whether that
200 to
voucher's ends up being available or not.
It
So
sounds
you
like
have more money to.
200 to
Yeah.
400?
Yes.
Yeah.
200.
Oh, I'm sorry, 200 to 400.
200 to
Yeah.
400 people in the 3-year window of the grant award, predicated on whether or not the vouchers that exist in our community are sustained or don't receive.
Yes.
But we know that they're going to.
We do, unless something changes within these next 3 years that.
I see. Okay.
But these,
But so then some of this money will be used to fill the gap of where those vouchers
Yep.
would have been.
Mhm.
So closer to 200 maybe if we're.
We'll take any gap.
Yeah,
funding
no,
we
I
can
mean,
for
we
that.
should take what we can get for sure.
Permanent
but-
supported housing is a very expensive
Yeah.
model of housing because of the long-term wraparound supports.
Mhm.
And this was to fill some of those, as Counselor Dr. Wright just said, fill some of those gaps with a voucher. Now, without the voucher, then you've got to fill some of those housing expenses.
And I think the housing study said we have about 600, more than 600 permanent supportive housing unit need,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
So just to
That's
give
really-
scope to, and it's
Yeah.
probably changing, right,
Yes.
given what's going on in our community, but at the minimum, 600 is needed. So this is maybe 1/3 to 2/3, depending
Yeah.
on other resources.
Yeah, this will be so important here
Yeah.
with like the federal cuts. Counselor Archie?
so, 2 to 400, did you say, these folks need to be struggling with opioid substances? They need to be addicted, or is part of the grant housing to maybe prevent that, or what's the qualification for receiving service?
The target audience are those individuals who are struggling with some sort of opioid substance abuse mental health
Okay.
issue. And right now, our homeless population can make up is between 20 to 22%. And just to clarify, 200, I apologize for saying the 2 to 400, 200 to 400 people.
Yeah, that's fine.
And the total number of homeless is what, 1389 or something?
It's over 1,400 at the
14, yeah.
2024 point
And
count.
1 in 5 have
Right,
these
okay.
issues.
And then we're about to have
I just
the-
wanted that number
Yeah.
so that we could do the percentage.
Well, for right now, but
Yeah.
then paired with our slow moving
Right.
evictions related to federal housing cuts.
And
It'll be higher.
last week on the by name list count, those that have identified themselves as homeless in need of housing was at 2,700. And so if you take that number and think about 20 to 22%, it's a higher number than if you just take that point in time
Right.
count number.
That's fair.
What's the other 700,000 gonna be used for?
We hired an opioid abatement response coordinator with the first cycle with the intent of continuing to expand the funding and the efforts in the community. So it covers her salary. She will assist with the processes that Emily is proposing. And it covers the Tulsa Fire Department's opioid response team, including 2 peer recovery support specialists and a paramedic. And it includes TPS's continuation of their prevention education training from deans down through little kiddos.
I think this will go a long way, just going by the numbers you just shared, 2,200, 1/5 is 440 people that potentially qualify specifically in this program. So even if we can serve 200, it's
huge.
Gonna be a worthwhile investment. I hope we get the award.
Right, I was gonna
Thanks
say.
for your work on it.
Did we get it?
And I hope if anyone's able to advocate with any opioid dollars.
Or do a
folks.
1-to-1 match on these dollars with the private.
Well, that was my
That'd be
question.
great.
Yeah, we're now
Are we
accepting
required to put
matching
in?
donations.
No.
No. Did you have anything else, Counselor Holder?
That, she answered it. That was my question. Are there required matching dollars or anything?
Okay. But if someone wants to offer them, just putting it out there.
A 50-cent match to every dollar. I mean, we have 440 people potentially that qualify right now for this program.
All right, well, it's exciting. Let us know how we can
Thank
continue to
you.
support,
Thank
or
you.
also if a letter or something from the council supporting us would be helpful. Okay, we are on agenda item 17, discussion with representatives from Tulsa Animal Services regarding the proposed FY 2025-2026 budget and capital plan, including a discussion on veterinary needs and future operational funding for the new animal shelter. Councilor Dunning sponsored this item, but I'm sure many of us second the need for the conversation.
Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning.
I'm Sherry Greer.
We've got Sherry and Colton with us.
Colton Jones, these are operations managers.
Congrats on your new website promoting adoption.
Yeah.
Or is it Facebook? Friends of.
It's a Facebook
Yeah,
page.
so if you don't know about it, make sure you share it out. That is something y'all have been working on for what, 2 or 3 years to get your
Our
own.
volunteers?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually created that. That's movement. So,
Do you want us to just have you like go through your presentation and then we'll?
that'd be great.
Okay, we will not interrupt you
Okay.
to the best of our ability.
We wanted to kind of give an update of where we are. And then, I know there's a couple topics of interest that we can address from the presentation, but one of Mayor Nichols' goals was the safest big city in America. Obviously, we want to address the loose dogs in the neighborhood issue. Those calls are frequent, and we continually have multiple calls still on the board to address. And we don't pick those up in one day, we always go back the next and try to get those animals out of the neighborhoods as we can. Obviously, with 8 ACOs not all working at the same time, and 2 lead ACOs, it's a little bit difficult, it's a challenge, but we're doing it. Seem to be making some progress, and I don't think that we're having as many upset community members as we have in the past, so I think we're making some progress. We are a new department now, and we have a new future with a brand-new facility that's being built. We actually had an update this morning at our construction meeting. Everything is on schedule. The tentative completion date would be July 8th of 2026. They just finished dirt work and getting some, I think I don't know what you call it, I guess percentages of the dirt, but to make sure it's good for the foundation, and then they'll start laying that slab down. So everything so far, knock on wood, is on schedule and going well. So we want to talk about opportunities for change. We've been very, very fortunate the last 2 years and a half, actually, that Colt and I have been there. We've really tried to establish and regain partnerships that didn't exist or may not have been as positive as they used to be. So I think we have finally reached that point where if you're not in the animal services industry, it might be difficult to understand that sometimes these people are very, very passionate about what they do and may not always agree, but we have come together as a community in Tulsa and really established partnerships with multiple agencies, and we have just recently have done some pretty big mobile clinics together, and we're going to continue on that path. But wanted to bring that to your attention, that we're trying to utilize every partnership that we can in the community that is no cost to the city of Tulsa and low cost or no cost to the community as a whole. Some of those things, I mentioned the clinics, we're working on spay-neuter, low-cost vaccinations or no cost, microchips. Improving morale and health and wellness of our team members has been a priority for us since we started. And we have actually partnered with multiple agencies at no cost to us for mental health services. We've created a Team Member of the Month and monthly team building and training for our team members. And from, I think, where we started to where we are now, we have pretty much consistency in hiring and processes and expedited processes for those things. So I'm very happy about that. I hope it continues, but with the group that we have and the work that they do, we have to keep in mind that their mental health is key and number one for us. Pretty recent, a few months ago, we were really trying to increase enforcement ordinance. We changed some ordinances. So we have a new spay-neuter voucher program. If you're ticketed for an unaltered pet, we've processed about 60 tickets so far. We have multiple agencies in Tulsa working with us. They've dedicated 5 surgeries a week for us, and as well, we have 2. And people are taking advantage of that program. We'll probably see more statistical data as we move along. We just don't have enough time there yet for the court process and how long it takes to get there and if there's a pass. So we'll have more to come as we move through those months. Really working with the Tulsa Police Department and our DA's office, Tulsa County, for abuse and cruelty cases. We hate to see those, but it seems like we're seeing them more, so we want to make sure that we're taking care of those cases appropriately and by the law. Aligning our shelter operations with national best practices. We have a shelter diversion program that is just knocking it out of the park. I mean, it's great. The young lady that we put into the diversion coordinator has been doing an amazing job. Animals that come in right away, she's trying to maneuver those to get them out to rescues, do some assessments for potential adopters, and so that those animals don't have to stay in our facility. And we do have a stray weight usually for those, but for a lot of the surrenders, which there are multiple, unfortunately, she's really addressing that head on, and just super proud of the work that she's doing. We actually had a shelter assessment in 2024 in February from the Best Friends Animal Society. So we took that assessment, and we knew some of the things that they were probably going to recommend. We'd already been addressing some of those issues, and I think we're continuing to do that, but we've made great strides to improve what they recommended. And a lot of that was pertaining to our adoption application, our volunteer recruitment, which has increased, our medical information, like an electronic format. We've done a lot of that. Colton's been instrumental in doing things that I don't like to do, creating some of those forms to make it easier for our team. And then just ensuring that our information is seen and that we are aware of any kind of medical issues that animals are having that we need to address immediately or that can wait and be addressed at a later time. Our partners investing in us, really proud of this. We have worked to gain a partnership with Invest North. This just recently happened, and we got some potential funds that we're utilizing for hopefully the first part of this. We have some additional opportunities, I hope, with them that would include more spay-neuter services and hopefully some fence repair in neighborhoods, but we'll continue to work on those things. We did get some funding for collars, tags, leashes, microchipping in the field, so we could try and return the owner to the homes. And I think we got actually an engraving machine so we could make tags for the community in a certain part of North Tulsa. So we've actually done some stray animal sweeps in those areas and picked up, remember how many dogs we picked up? It was a lot.
Quite a few.
Yeah, so we continue to focus our efforts on, especially communities that say we have a real problem here, and we're going to some of these actual community meetings so that we know the areas of concern so that we can address those as they come up. Also, Best Friends funded us microchip readers that we can have at the fire stations when we're ready to kick those off. We got funding for heartworm treatment from them. Both Colton and I have been to the cohort executive leadership training. It gives us access to colleagues around the nation to ask questions, to bounce ideas off of each other, to see if they've struggled with areas that we're struggling with and that they have ideas for improvement for us. And then they provided the no-cost shelter assessment for us as well. So a couple of topics that you probably are interested in, one being veterinary services, which we have outlined some specifics here in just a few minutes, but our current funding for veterinary services, I think, is $30,000. And out of that, we pay a diagnostic laboratory for blood work, and we pay the Oklahoma Animal disease diagnostic laboratory, we send our cruelty cases there, and some necropsies, which is the equivalent to an adult that is undergoing a procedure like that to see exactly what happened. So we have included here, if we were funded a part-time veterinarian, we would potentially increase that amount by $80,000 for a contract part-time person. We are mindful of the budget, absolutely, and I'll kind of get into some of the description of what our veterinary services is right now. It is definitely overwhelming if you haven't been to our shelter, if you haven't seen our clinic. I would encourage you to come out and at least tour and maybe just stay for a few minutes and see how life-saving actually takes place in that facility, and the things that happen on a daily basis is pretty impressive. Our team is just as top-notch as any veterinary clinic here in the Tulsa area and probably the state of Oklahoma. I'm very proud of them, and I know how hard they work and how dedicated they are to saving lives. One of the things that, or a few things actually, that would be positive with a part-time veterinarian position would be decreasing adoption surgery wait times. Some of those are 2 to 3 days out sometimes, so when someone comes in and they're a family ready to adopt an animal, they don't want to wait 2 or 3 or 4 days. I mean, they want to take that animal home, so they could go to SPCA that's around the corner, which I'm glad about that. I do want our partners to get adoptions too, but it's nice when they leave our facility. We could potentially have increased live outcomes. We know that euthanasia is a reality here. There are animals that come in that are hit by cars, that are very injured, that are sick, that we cannot save. But any animal that is healthy and a good animal, not aggressive and potentially adoptable, we want them out of that facility. So Colton and I have worked hard on different concepts and procedures to increase our live outcomes, and I'm happy to say that since we've been here, we've increased our save rate by about 10%. So we're trending about 78% today with the last weekly report card. Actually, I think it was 77 this week. But that is a huge jump, and the Oklahoma average is 79%. So we're not far from there, and the national average is 83%. So we're really proud of that, but we don't want to stop. We want to keep going and have that momentum and make sure we're trying to get animals out of the facility.
That's really exciting. I'm gonna do the interrupting you thing that I said we would try not to do, but just because I know there might be really specific related to the veterinarian cost staffing question.
I can wait.
You sure?
taking
Okay, I know
notes.
you have one. Okay, I'll wait till a little more holistic then, just checking. Okay. Just as a clarifier though, for food for thought for us, so there's already budget for one veterinarian and you're mentioning a part-time. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, proceed, no more interrupting, probably.
Another thing I just wanted to bring to your attention, when we were in another department, is we did not have an established overtime budget, so just letting you know that. Not reflected in current budget, and we do have animal control officers that do have standby overnight calls every day of the week. Someone is available for calls. It could take a few minutes to get there just because they may live in a different part of town, so depending on traffic and what time of the day it is, but they're always there. We also have a holiday staffing pay. Just because there's a holiday, we still have to go in and clean up after the animals and feed and make sure somebody's there to take care of them. That's our first priority. Say also, this could be potentially a moving target depending on how many calls that come in. Over the months, it could increase, it could decrease, so just wanted to bring that to your attention. I think in the last budget years that we've been here, some of this has been covered from vacant positions, but I don't know. I mean, I'm excited to say that we've been doing a better job with those, so I hope that continues, but I definitely wanted to let you know in case there's a budget amendment that comes up at a later time. So we can go into veterinary clinic services. You see our team members there. This is actually a great partnership. As I talked about before, this is a mobile unit that is at our facility right now because we've had some roof damage, so our clinic is drying out. Humane Society of Tulsa allowed us to use their mobile veterinary clinic, and this is what we take to different parts of town to do vaccination and spay-neuter clinics. So it's a great unit. Thank goodness for them. No cost to us, and just very thankful to have it right now, especially when we have so many surgeries and different medical needs on a daily basis. So some of our services are listed here. I won't go through all of them. It is a big load. It's a big load for the vet assistants there. For one veterinarian, I have literally seen our staff feed her while she is doing surgery. So it's just an ongoing thing that it doesn't stop. And I definitely want to see if, she can get some assistance as we move forward with the potential of more animals, and for sure in a newer facility that has more capacity and a larger space and a larger clinic. We are super thankful that we did get to keep our positions. It was great. It was overwhelming for a minute, and we're just very thankful for that. We did have some budget reductions. They're listed here. Just wanted to make sure you were aware of those. And
What does EMD stand for?
it's
Equipment maintenance.
Okay.
So here's our org chart. I wanted to go over the highlighted areas. We currently have 45 team members. You see the animal intake officer to the left, that was actually filled today, so no longer highlighted. You've got a kennel maintenance worker in the middle and one to the right. Those are in process for hire. One's actually here right now doing an interview in the building. We saw her when we came in. And then the two ACOs, one of those recently, in the last week, he transferred to code enforcement. And then the other ACO actually transferred to our clinic team. So that's been in the last couple of weeks, I think, for her. Those have actually been posted. And that we also post those on the National Animal Care and Control website as well, so we can get good candidates that are familiar with the field. I think I was probably a little bit more blown away than I thought I would be when I actually looked at this page. But this is a recap of our statistics from 2024 through May 25. Total intakes is over 12,000. And our adoptions, close to half. You see the transfer to rescue and other group, almost 1,800. That's that diversion piece that I was talking about earlier. It's really been helpful. We did have 11 return to owner. That's great. We love it when that happens. I think it'll help too. We have more microchips available for people and tags to identify animals that could potentially go back to their homes. There's the save rate up 7%. That was 2024, and now we're currently trending 78, but 77% this week. We vaccinate every animal that comes in. Unfortunately, some animals come in that are very, very sick, and we cannot save them. Our spay neuter was almost 6,000. So that's all of those animals that were adopted. And then we will have some more, just with some of the programs that we're working with. And I think that was in the veterinary services too. We were working with Housing Solutions and some of the other groups to try and people get into housing, but they have to have their pets spayed, neutered, and vaccinated. Our investigations was 739. That's for bite calls only. And then our ACO calls for service, I think this is the one that kind of really blew me away, it's almost 22,000, and the average number of monthly calls is almost 1,300. So, and that doesn't include when they're on launch or actually unloading an animal, cleaning their truck, and getting back into the field.
And just one thing to kind of hit on that is by policy, at least for us, if it is a priority one, which means it's the highest priority call that we have, that will actually negate an officer's lunch and bring them off of lunch to respond. Or if they were planning on going to lunch, that will prevent them from going to lunch. So we do have ACOs, and especially now where we're getting so many priority calls, there are days that they are not getting to take a lunch. And I do want to make sure that you guys are aware of that, but also to publicly acknowledge that, you know, they do a lot with the very limited resources that they have and what they can do on calls. So we do appreciate the ones that are sticking with us and putting their heart and soul into this job.
And that includes people who end up at like crime scenes as well, where they're like a
Absolutely.
homicide where there's a pet there. Okay.
Yes.
Just flagging
And
that.
that's actually, to bring up that point, that is one of those calls that will either bring you off of lunch or prevent you from going to lunch.
Another one is the schools. We made those schools a top priority. This is just recommendations from the National Animal Care and Control Association. It just tells about how a shelter should be staffed in the facility and minimum care standards. And then this next slide is our current staff of 45. Current facility is 16,000 square feet. And shows intakes of 2024 only, 14-day average holding period, and then the formula, which results in a 13.5 employees needed for animal care alone. And currently, we have 8, and that's per shift. And then if you go to the next slide, this would be when we move to a new facility. Again, that target date's 7/8/26, if you stay on topic. If you guys remember when we did the groundbreaking, that's Biffle. Biffle did get adopted. Yay! So that's good. Biffle's living on a ranch somewhere, having fun.
That's awesome.
Our new facility is gonna be 24,000 square feet, much larger clinic area, which is great. Recommended staffing levels for the new facility are at the bottom per our formula. It is recommended that we have 62.5 team members at the new facility.
How many do you have right now?
Staffing, 45.
Okay, I have a little bit of a list going, as you might imagine, of Counselor Dector. I have Counselor Dector, hopefully a quick question for me, Counselor Archie, Counselor Dutton, and Counselor Bush. And then I'm just gonna put Counselor Bengal on, because he's a cat person. He didn't
Cats
raise
rule
you.
and dogs drool. Just saying.
Oh my gosh, anyway, I just tossed you unassuming. Okay, Counselor Dector, right?
We don't do partisanship here, we do cats and dogs.
Yeah, it's all about.
Thank you,
I said what I said.
thank you so much, thank you for that, and thank you for what all you guys have done. I'm not on the animal working group anymore, but I have been with y'all. And I know that the current counselors doing the work are, you know, taking notes just as I have. So, thank you for this. 45 current, 62.5 needed. That is a call to action for us to figure out how we get to that place. For the new counselors, I don't know if you followed our budget discussions in recent years, but every year we have been saying, like, we need to get ready for the, not just the facility and what the facility is gonna cost, but the people that are gonna make this facility be what we envision for our community. And so that number jumped out at me. Also, the vet thing, we have gone around and around, and you were very delicate with how you said it, but the fact that we have some staff members feeding a vet so that they can keep going, I just want you to imagine like 2 surgery tables with one person spinning in the middle, back and forth all day, like that is grim. And the vet that we had before us, last time we talked about this in budget, ended up leaving like soon after. So there's a retention issue. When we talk about mental health for people, I mean, no, that's not a good working environment. So I know it's an expense, 80,000 to close the gap to get to 110 for a part-time vet, but, in small budget meetings, I've been talking about how this priority has to be met, so I'll just say it in the full group, because I know my colleagues that sit in small budget have already heard it. The other thing in small budget we've been talking about is overtime and how we budget for those things and cover it, mostly pertaining to sworn personnel. So it was a bit of a surprise to see this on here, that it's not in the budget proposal. And I think I heard it's because it used to be embedded like in a bigger department, and that unfilled positions covered the gap, which is true about some of the sworn personnel discussion that we've had. So I guess my question is, is there an estimate of what these overtime costs? I know it would be like depending
This
on
year,
like,
it's
yeah,
probably about 140,000.
140,000. And is there a reason it wasn't put in the budget proposal that you're aware of? Or it's just we didn't know?
I have documentation
Okay.
and an email.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't think
wanna
that's.
talk out of turn or speak for someone.
No, that's okay. I just don't think it's a negotiable that we don't budget for overtime when we know it's gonna be realized. So it's just something,
Yeah, it's just that currently we don't have a safety net, and I
Yeah.
think as we were embedded in a different department, we kind of did have a safety net, and now that it doesn't exist.
the safety net being unfilled positions department-wide.
It just, yeah, the budget at all. So if
Yeah.
if we're hopeful that our positions are full, because we need them, and if they are, it could come up and it could require a budget amendment. I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Or a year-end fund balance discussion, which has been an interesting discussion in this budget cycle for sure. The final question I had is, I saw the $25,000 EMD cut, that's annually, right? What are the anticipated impacts of doing something like that?
So the way that we actually got to that when we were talking about globally the 4% is we were currently, and I think still are, about $35,000 positive in that account. So.
So you're not utilizing it fully every year?
Yeah, it's not fully being utilized. So that
Okay.
was one of the things that we were able to say, yeah. we
So
can-
do you use about 10,000 a year?
We use more than that, but that's just the actual reduction amount. I don't remember what the starting line item, I think Mandy may have our actual current budget.
Okay. I mean, if it's just efficiencies gained because it hasn't been fully utilized, I think that's fine. I just wanna make sure we're not. I understand the directive was to cut 4% in each department, so everyone followed the directive. I would assert, and I think some of my colleagues would say, maybe we get more precise in our approach and where we find those efficiencies, because for some departments, they don't have as much room.
Or they were already operating at like
A
under
deficit.
staff.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Like you're adding a cut on top of existing cuts.
44 is what you normally use in a year?
I think the budget on this.
44,000 is normally what's budgeted for EMD. You put a $25,000 reduction on it, but feel confident that doesn't leave you not able to maintain equipment or.
It has not presented a problem for us
Okay.
thus far.
Okay,
That's
good.
great. That's great. And, a budget's a plan. We don't have a predictor of, natural disasters or things that come up, and so we make adjustments as we go throughout the year. So the things that are jumping out to me, just to summarize, is $80,000 needed for part-time vet and $140,000 potentially for overtime.
I have a clarifying part-time vet question, but I don't know if that would
Yeah,
add
I'm
to what
done.
Laurel Roberts is about to share with us.
I just wanted to clarify, I was getting back with Mandy, she said the fund balance right now is 44,000 for the EMD, but the actual expenditures are around 80.
A year?
Last year was
Yes.
about 94,000.
Oh.
So we spend $80,000 to $94,000 a year on maintenance, but we're cutting 25,000. So what happens when we can't maintain the things we need to maintain?
It was funded at 130,000.
Yeah, I got that.
We spent about 94,000 last year.
Oh, okay, so it's, okay.
So we're budgeting the actuals?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I
That's good.
thought that was the.
That makes sense and it's smart.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify that.
No, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you for doing that.
My follow-up vet staffing question is, this is related to, okay, budget for one vet, it would be optimal, well, I'm curious, is it optimal to have another part-time one, or is it optimal to have another full-time one? But within that, I acknowledge that recruiting of that is challenging, and I know OSU's just like ended their veterinary program, so I was just curious if that was, hey, our most optimal thing would be to have
So I
two
think
vets,
in
but,
current facility,
Yeah.
and knowing that the more vets we have, the more veterinary staff we need.
right,
To
support them.
Some of the vet assistants.
Right.
So the current facility we're in, a half, I think, is, a part-time vet would be sufficient.
Okay.
Although when we move to the new facility, and we kind of determined this even before the formula, 2.5 is really the requirement.
Yeah.
And that would require other vet assistants as well.
Okay, thanks, that's what I was curious, and then I'll just flag to my colleagues too, one of the things here related to just the broad need, et cetera, you know, especially if we have more people that are unhoused, that just creates instability and more unhoused pets as well. Paired with that, we also end up just kind of serving a region, because pets don't acknowledge borders across our different, you know, cities and things like that.
Unincorporated,
Yeah, and unincorporated areas, so we're also providing, like, there's that element of we're providing a regional service, and maybe the county would like to chip in more. Okay, I have, Counselor Archie next, and then Counselor Devon, and, okay.
Oh, great.
Put Lakin before Bengal, because Bengal didn't actually exist yet. Oh, I did.
Fine by me.
Wonderful. Well, Sherry and your team, I just want to say, well, a couple of things. Number one, be encouraged. The work that y'all are doing is wonderful. In fact, we have 2 dogs at our house. One was hit, and you all were so compassionate and, you know, transitioning her to her end of life. And so, thank you for the work that y'all are doing, number one. Number two, when we had our cold weather event, the partnership that you all had with Tulsa Dream Center in West Tulsa, because they housed those pets, and you know, provided a lot of supplies there. And so the West Side definitely thanks you for that, and you know, the resources you need, especially this veterinarian, that certainly support it. So I just want to lend my voice to that.
Thank you.
So
I'm
thank
sorry
you all.
for your loss.
All right, Counselor Dunham.
So I have just a few questions that actually were answered with the presentation, which I appreciate the NACA formula results for staffing. It's really informative. So I was looking at the fiscal year 26-27 allocation here for authorized positions, and it's from 45 to 44.5, so you're actually losing positions. But the difference between what you need for the new facility to, is 18 from that 62.5. And so you're going to have almost twice the space. And I can't help but feel that this has to be a top priority, especially with the funding for the amount of people you'll need for the new facility. And we're not even really talking equipment either for the new facility, because you're going to have to utilize even more equipment to accommodate the number of extra animals you'll be bringing in due to the size of the new facility. So that staffing difference of 18, what would that equate? I didn't break down what the staffing pay scales were for the different, but we definitely need that 2.5 vets at least in order to be effective and complete a tangible mission going forward.
So what is needed to pay 18
Yeah.
employees?
Mhm.
Do you know that number, dollar-wise?
And then along with that also, the turnaround and the retention that Counselor Deckter-Wright has spoken about. When people are so overworked, it's going to be costly in time and animal services when you're constantly having to replace people due to the inability to offer support for your staff. So, yeah, I would be interested in that number for the cost.
Which would give us good
I can
goalposts
get
for
it too.
future budget years.
But we don't have future budget years, they're opening in July of
Oh.
'26.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just acknowledging we may not staff up be right within that current
And that's
year,
with the
unless we
idea
aggressive
that
in
they're
our
going to
budget.
be losing people according to the budget.
Yeah, we answered that earlier, Sarah. It's not losing position to have it in FY '25, and it was changing a animal control officer to provide funding to keep the grant-funded outreach position.
Okay.
So the funding went private?
Yes.
No, the
Position.
the
Community
grant-
involvement coordinator.
So is it correct that for your current space, best practice for staffing would be 13.5 people and you guys have 8
Yeah,
right now?
that's what it looks like.
Correct.
Okay.
That's only for cleaning.
For, okay.
That's per 15
animal.
minutes per animal.
Okay, I need
Yeah.
a bunch of councils to get through, but I know,
That position.
was anyone's question paying off of what Councilor Dutton just said? Okay, we'll move on to, I have Councilor Bush next.
I'm afraid I know the answer, but could you verify for me? The total intakes, and of course the adoption rate and all of that, if I'm doing the math, that's 3,400 that aren't adopted, transferred to other groups, or returned to owners.
You're probably correct.
Well,
And some of
according
that-
to my calculator, because I can't do
Yes.
the math in my head.
Right, and some of those, statistically, it doesn't matter how an animal, leaves the facility that's not adopted or transferred out. If they're injured, it's a stat, you know, if they're not, it's a stat, so it's all in the same bucket.
Right, so.
A lot of those could have been medical cases.
But
A lot of
they're-
those
but they're
could have been
euthanized,
aggressive
right?
animals that are not adopted. That's correct.
And I've adopted from our shelter in the past, even cats. His name was Lamont.
Yeah, that's what my house is full of, is a shelter.
Well, I've got one now if you'd like her.
No, I've
Should we
got-
just get out of the way how many people we have to rescue? and then
Yeah,
we
we'll
can-
give yours too.
Yeah, I'm not a cat person, but anyway. And I know it's super difficult. I mean, the animals I've adopted, I saw them online and then I had to have a friend or my husband go get them. I can't go in. So I don't know how you do it.
I encourage you to keep looking online.
I do, don't worry, I do, and I rescue several, my own, you know, because being a cyclist, you're out in the middle of nowhere and people dump things, as the world knows.
All right, everyone gets 100 animal altruism points, is
I
the
know,
question.
good grief. Okay, so you brought up a point, and, of course, I'm trying to make sure that we're leveraging or invoicing, if you will, others. Animals, abandoned animals don't know boundaries, right, or districts. So how many, do you get calls from outside, like in the county, other cities, Owasso, you know, our friends?
We do, and actually, Tulsa County actually currently uses our facility, and we are working on a tentative agreement with them that I don't think has been in place before.
Okay.
So, yes, we do.
And we're gonna charge them for that use, right?
That's the dream.
That is the idea.
Okay.
So, they do bring animals in, they do have cruelty cases that, sometimes take a little while to complete, so the animals are in the facility for a minute. Not many other, I mean, I'm not gonna tell you that we don't have attempts to come in from miles away, that we have to turn away and try to connect them with rescue partners.
Okay.
It happens a lot. And then, of course, we have animals tied to a tree at our facility with a water bowl that's left with them, so.
I know. Well, I guess my point, I'm trying to, in these budget times,
Look for revenue.
highly encourage, you know, maybe, especially if the county is our biggest person that is, or agency that's putting, you know, let's make sure we charge them.
Yeah, that's
Kind
been
of
a
like we
multi-year-
sell our water.
Yeah, that's been a
You know,
multi-year
like-
effort with that
It's-
they haven't
We're
been.
currently working on it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get it
Just,
done. They
you know,
have
as
money.
kind of a highlight, I looked at the amount of ACOs that we have, and that's 8. We don't have all at one time, but that's 200 square miles.
Yeah.
That's 25 square miles per ACO,
Right.
which is equivalent to, I think, 12 football fields. So, yeah, they have, it's a big,
I know.
big
But
responsibility.
you need 13, right?
13.5 is just a cleaning
for the
Oh, for
facility.
ACOs, what do you need? That's not,
I did not reference that
Okay.
earlier. I did reference it in the new building.
14.
Counselor Lakin.
Okay, did we talk about, I heard your question about part-time, full-time vet. Did we talk about contracting vets? Contracting with vets?
Yeah, that was actually, a part of our discussion. That would be probably a contract part-time vet.
This
Okay.
one would be the 80.
If we have one for the facility we're in now.
Tell me what you're saying?
They wouldn't come on, I mean, it would
I thought we were trying to hire a part-time
in-house.
vet
But it would be
as
on
a
a
city
contract?
employee. Or as a,
It could be a contract vet. We have discussed that, so we wouldn't have to.
or what are the pros and cons
Yeah, could that be
of
more
that?
expensive?
I
see
mean,
that happen at
sometimes
state
if you have
level.
contract vets, you may have a few that work different places, some that are semi-retired, that you can get them in easier. I mean, it's very hard to get veterinarians in this state, well, in the United States right now, but we are fortunate to have OSU, and we do talk to them regularly about interns and those
Yeah.
things. So we have had success when we didn't have a veterinarian to have veterinarians that were working other places that weren't working 40 hours. That would be work for us.
I know that could be,
Sure.
oh, sorry, I was just gonna name, like, we've been seeing on the state level where when the hiring freezes happen, they end up contracting instead, and then that's more expensive. Granted though, if you can't find someone else anyway, but sorry, you gotta come soon.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, so if we are able to allocate some amount of money, you'll just decide internally whether or not that needs to be a part-time employee or a contractor.
We will, and we will definitely have those discussions with our lead veterinarian as well. Like, we want her to be comfortable and confident with the person that is coming into the facility to work with her.
Yep.
But right now it's $35,000 is what you have to do contracting.
Well, we have $30,000 in veterinary services, but that's used for blood work, laboratory, necropsy.
Like sending out.
Correct.
So the 80 that could come on, does that cover a
That would-
contractor and or in-house?
That would be for part-time veterinarian, and the 30 would still be for the
Labs and, I gotcha.
Okay, and then with respect to the overtime, so you, I mean, it's pretty certain that you will have some vacant positions. At some, I mean,
You would
you've
think.
had vacant positions in the past.
Oh, yeah.
These are
With
high
the-
turnover jobs or
With the
something.
staff, the staff that we have, the age that we have working in the kennels, I'm sure, but usually we fill those kennel workers with temporary positions, because we have to have them
Yeah.
for cleaning. And then a lot of those temporary workers will hire on to the city as a full-time employee.
Just trying to figure out how to get you a number that is more predictable than like the $140,000 number that would net out those vacant positions and not rely on a budget amendment sometime after this fiscal year starts. If you could send us that number, I mean, just a plausible pro
Probably do
forma
the
number.
last, like,
140 minus
years or
2 or 3 vacant positions, that would total out to whatever for a net of 60 grand, or, I don't know, I'm just throwing numbers out. But it'd help us, because it's gonna be hard to find 140 grand, just as a what if.
We have $1.117 billion in this budget.
Yep, and it was sent down to us as a,
Oh, I know.
oh, I know, yeah.
We've got to set some priorities here.
A budget is a
Yeah,
moral
a lot of,
document.
lot of priorities have been set, I'm
Yeah,
just,
you know, I know.
yeah, I know. We just have time and other things and a lot of other, wish list items to put on the agenda, so I'm just trying to get as
Oh, I
close
hear
of a
you.
number as we possibly can.
And I want
As
you
we
all to
balance all
know
this
that
out.
we are very mindful of the budget, and we are trying to work very,
Oh, we're not saying
very
you
Oh,
hard.
no, it's not, no one has a
Yep.
critical
Well,
eye
I
on
mean,
how you all budget.
very hard to work with partners so that
Oh, yeah.
we don't have the expenses. So,
I was just trying to find you more money
Well,
from other
to
sources.
Sherry's point, these partners too are maxed out and they're
Yeah.
using their own resources, which in this philanthropic funding environment,
human basic services are being cut from government, that puts more pressure, and I will guess that human housing, food, medical is going to
Affects
supersede in a
that, yeah.
nonprofit ask than even our animal rescue community. So I don't know if we've ever quantified like the amount of resources that they are like offsetting for us not doing all this, but it's significant.
Well, and also flagging, of course, that when there's extreme weather, there's not an option for people to not go to work at an animal shelter, because
Yeah.
otherwise the animals will not get care, so there's a lot of
Right.
these additional factors.
We do have very dedicated team members.
Yeah, you all do. I have Christian Bengal listed, he didn't actually have a question.
The cat
Just
man.
any other thing about
Am I the
cats,
last
or
one?
you have a question now?
No, I
Am
have
I
a
last?
follow-up.
No, you're not. Do you
Oh,
wanna
I
be
wanna go
last?
last.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about?
You're actually next on the
Thank
list,
you.
so go ahead. I
So
have you, then Counselor Gilbert, and then Counselor Dunn again.
So we have a multi-million-dollar facility that have worked diligently to get funded and built, and looks like it'll be opening July of 2026, which is the start of the next fiscal year. And I think what I just heard is we need 17 or 18 new employees to be able to run that facility that is opening in, let's call it 13 months. So how do we get from 45 current, which we all acknowledge there will be attrition throughout the year, because that happens, to 62.5 by July 1st of next year, trained, understanding how the city works, understanding all these things? I don't think it's reasonable to think, let's open a new facility and then start to try to hire a bunch of new people. And I've asserted that over the last several years, and I know my colleagues who have heard that before are understanding that we've had this conversation. Is there a way to do a terraced approach, where maybe we're bringing on 3 or 4 new employees per quarter, or at least 9 in the next end of, from January to next June? So we can have a stepwise approach? And have we had a conversation about what that could look like? I know in other budget years when we've had needs, we have kind of taken that, like, let's wait till January to hire, so that it lessens the burden on the fiscal year current. But I don't see how we get to fiscal year 26, open a brand new facility and still don't need 62 people to run it. And I don't know, in this plan year budget, I could go look, but in the plan year budget, are those 18 positions in the plan year? Or is it 2?
I'm sure it's two.
I respond to
Counselor
that.
League, of course, yeah.
I would just say, using those national norms is something that we try to do in a whole bunch of different departments too. And we don't have 4 firefighters on a fire truck, and we don't have, 980 whatever police officers either. So we have to take it in context of the constraint that we have with our budget too. So it's probably somewhere in between that number and where we are. We probably need more people, but we need a lot more people and a lot more departments too. So how do we get everybody to that place, every department to that place?
I hear that, but we also are building a new facility that we've said is
I
gonna
know we have a
revolutionize
brand
this
new
issue.
public safety center too.
Do we?
You're
Yeah,
making
I mean, it's gonna be,
big
yeah, it's gonna
faces,
be ready
stop
about the
everyone.
same time. I mean, what kind of debate are we having on whether or not we
just-
have a public safety center ready or not?
I'm
It's
saying
going to
we've
be the
worked really
same.
hard to get millions of dollars to build facilities that if we don't have people in them, public safety center, animal services.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not arguing about the public
Tulsa
safety center.
Performing Arts Center, the Gilcrease, so I just wanna be mindful that these things don't happen without people, and the people is the
That's what I'm
reoccurring
saying.
cost.
I'm just saying it across a whole bunch of different
I agree, I'm
capital.
agreeing with you, but what I'm trying to recenter this on is, even if we agree best practices won't be realized, we won't be at 62, we have 18 positions, even if we say 9, let's go half. Let's go a quarter, like, that's not in this budget.
That is where, how do we incrementally
Yes,
approach this?
how do we-
Understanding
Yeah,
for Counselor Lakin's point that we might never get to
I'm not
100%.
disagreeing, I'm just saying, I don't think we can get to the
Yeah, like maybe that's,
62
yeah,
right
it's
away,
Can we do
or if it's
1/3 of the
or if it's
18?
necessary.
6? 3?
I think it seems like anything incrementally would help, it's just making sure that we actually are in a trajectory to actually continue to scale it. Because I think the hard thing that's
Right.
happened in year-over-year budget conversations, predating this moment and even predating this
Right.
newer facility, is that they've been understaffed already, period.
Exactly.
We
Yeah.
know that.
But it's our responsibility to identify
How we're gonna move forward,
what
yeah.
we've said we're gonna deliver to the public, which is a better
So I think it's a matter of what can we reason.
outcomes and systems, and we just heard 3,500 for medical or otherwise. The other thing I didn't wanna breeze past is the increase in animal cruelty cases is a direct indicator of child abuse and domestic violence in our community. And so we should not compartmentalize these things. And I don't know what kind of task forces are happening that when something like that occurs, is there like a cascade of events that we're also looking? Or is it just like, we're just dealing with the animal issue?
No, they're partnering with Tulsa Police Department and Tulsa County.
To then look at like family systems?
And we're very
Okay.
connected with the link
Okay.
and doing training with that, so yes, very aware of those
Okay,
issues.
so I don't know if the animal, services working group is looking at the staffing thing and could bring like a recommendation on budget for mid-year or what we need to do, but I just don't,
Yeah.
even if we agree that, best practices can't be achieved for restraints, 18 positions, even if we said 1/3, like that's nowhere in this budget.
Yeah, I do like this idea of one, I think it sounds like what I'm hearing is in the, what we're looking at currently for the upcoming budget is at least figuring out the veterinarian aspect, period. And then two, yeah, I think.
And overtime.
Yeah, and overtime, of course, especially acknowledging that there's just non-negotiables of having, vulnerable constituencies in your care. But then two, it sounds like, yeah, I think we could allocate, like, continued conversations with the Animal Welfare Commission, Animal Services Department related to longer-term staffing to the Animal Welfare Working Group. Does that sound, that way we can just try to like zero in more on like what's reasonable to be like, hey, could we try to get this year over like a multi-year plan, kind of just conceptually at least to aim for within
I think we need
budgets?
to map out a staffing plan,
Yeah.
otherwise we'll never achieve it. I mean, we've kind of done that in municipal court, like, what's the wish? What are the, things that we actually need?
Is this something, hold on, I'm trying to think through restructure. Is James Wagner, who's over?
Laurel.
Laurel, okay,
is-
great, public
yeah.
safety. Okay, can you just help us figure this out in the future, or what do you wanna, yeah? 'Cause-
We know that, I'm not sure what Sherry's expectation of once we get the shelter open. I don't think we expect it to be fully at capacity come July 1 of 2026,
Right,
right?
so
We're building
that's-
for anticipated growth, right? So that we're at a point in the future where it will be maxed. So I'm not sure that those numbers, I haven't looked at Sherry's numbers completely. I don't know if 62.5 is what we need on July 1st to be up and running, or when it's fully.
Maximize.
Right.
So maybe what we're actually looking at is, maybe per your point, Councilor Nectar, right, about mid-year, is
Yeah.
could we put something on an agenda for, like 6 months from now, where we're all sitting back here and looking at, when there's a little more breathing space, looking at longer term, multi-year staffing plans, acknowledging that this isn't embedded within.
Well, that should align to our budget retreat of 2026 as well.
That's
just-
true.
Like, we have to back into these things,
Yeah.
because we always get to like March and go, oh,
Oh, there's not enough staff.
it
That
wasn't in
happens
the
every
plan
year.
year, and then it gets kicked, but I appreciate that we don't need to be fully staffed, but I also wanna say for several years now, since we've known we've had this commitment to open a facility, we've been talking about how do we
Staff and not
onboard
hosts.
and get to a place where we're not overwhelming burnt out staff who've gotten to that point to open a bigger facility and have these expectations from the public
So
not
do we wanna
fulfilled.
put this back on actually then, per your point, with the retreat, like for like a quarter from now, like in 3 months?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys can kind of look at like a 3-year plan of like, we open the facility and in 3 years we'll be fully staffed, or 5, or.
So I do wanna just kind of clarify something, and it's to your point, Counselor, about the 3,000 number that you brought up. That facility, when we move, could potentially be full. If you're looking at,
Right away.
Yeah. Realistically, we hope that we're putting things into place that we don't keep it full. So I just wanna make sure that we clarify that.
Okay, so I'm just flagging for council staff, so in 3 months, we can circle back on just, okay, great. And then I still have, that way we can, per your point, move the conversation forward and not always end up in the same spot of, there's not enough staffing in the budget. Okay, I have Councilor Gilbert Dutton and then Councilor Bengal closing out unless anyone else wants to hop in. All right, Councilor Gilbert.
So Counselor Lakin pretty much asked the same question that I was going to get into about interns from OSU coming in to help with that level, or with the surgical stuff. But also TCC, Tulsa Achieves, students that go through Tulsa Achieves, they have to have so many community service hours. And TCC does offer that clinic position. So I'm more than happy to reach out to TCC to see if we can be put on the list of possible.
We do talk to them.
Okay.
The high schools were having volunteer requirements?
Yes, for Tulsa Achieves, you
Yeah.
have to have community service hours.
Oh, and high
So,
schools, yeah.
So, I think that, it's not gonna help with that staffing gap, in the future, but at least it might be able to help relieve some of that pressure of some of the kennel
So,
care.
and our requirements for community service volunteers is 18 and older, and specific requirements because of the animals that are in the facility.
Right.
Also, there's training that we want our team members to do before they even do this work. Fear-free training is something that's a priority for us. But there are some animals that we would not allow.
Oh, of course.
People to
Right,
interact with.
right.
just so you know.
Right, yeah, but I think it might be, at least something to look into, to help with that pressure. My middle did TCC for 2 years, did that Chiefs, and she volunteered for our rescue group. So we had dogs at our house constantly. We still do, but that was the hardest part, was taking them to adoption events and going to pick them up and they weren't there. But, yeah, but at least they found a forever home, and, but at least it's something, to work with TCC to see if that might be something that we can possibly be put into the progress, especially moving into the new kennel. So we can add it to our animal working group.
Yes. Which we should get scheduled in the interim of that other 3-month conversation. I'm just flagging that for other people in the group, because I'll be on, I might not be around for like a few weeks. Okay, and then, let's see, Counselor Dutton?
So, yeah, just a couple quick questions. How many animals per day does the vet actually work with, just on a given basis per day?
It could be up to 100 or more.
And that's one vet?
Just depending.
Yeah.
If there's just people coming in to get the rabies that they weren't of age, fosters coming in that need preventatives, heartworm treatment that has to be done, and there's some things that the vet has to be on site to be able to do those things, per the vet board. So we're very mindful of that as well. But on a daily basis, you just never know. There could be 5 casualties that come in while she's trying to do 15 surgeries for the day.
Is she normally on call for the weekends as well?
She is, video calls if we have emergencies that come in.
That's a lot. I also, with the estimate of animals coming in, with the expectation it's gonna double, that's 24,000.
It's about, I think the capacity is 387.
Yeah.
And that's probably 100 plus what we have right now.
Do we have any idea what we're gonna do with the old facility? Like for
I have an
backup?
She has an idea.
Well, I think that's
Pull out
something we
one
need to
board and-
consider as backup, like in the winters when we have these low barrier shelters where animals need to be put.
For a second, I thought you were about to say, oh, we can put people there. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
no.
No,
Okay, sorry,
they're
keep going.
pets. They're
That was
pets.
like, oh, good. You
No,
know,
I
pets.
think it would be useful for their pets. And I think we need to be upfront getting this funded so that as the facility gets built, we are not still backtracking like we've been doing for decades on adequate staffing. That's all I have.
Okay, well, with all of that, Any other clarification from you all? Counselor Bengal is gonna punctuate this, and then I think pizza's here for people who backtrack.
There is a catio, I just wanted to
I
let
was
you
just
know.
gonna say, I'm gonna reinforce cats rule and dogs rule. I think it's important, like everybody has said here, and I appreciate, that's why I wanted to go last, because most of the questions that I had got answered. Do we have a heat map of where most of our
Yes.
calls are?
Yes, we do.
Because I would kind of like to see something like that, because those numbers that you presented are pretty significant. Doing the surgical cut of 4% all through this and looking at what you're cutting and then looking at the new facility and how we tier and ramp up staffing from 45 to 62.5 is gonna be a challenge. But I'm hoping, you know, with the internship of folks from OSU that are going through the animal sciences programs and stuff like that, I'm hoping there'll be renewed volunteerism with a brand-new facility, and that might alleviate some of the staffing issues as we try and work towards that. But obviously, we all feel the same way about, you know, funding what we built for the community for this specific thing. So I appreciate the work that you guys do, and hopefully this will be a lot different visually than what you're in now, because I can't even walk in that facility. It's so heartbreaking. So hopefully, as we try and figure this out, budgetary wise, I'm hoping that you're coming to us with the honesty of what you need and not shortcutting yourself to the detriment of the work, especially when you have high turnover rates in certain positions and stuff like that, because it can be challenging. My daughter worked in there for like 6 months on a voluntary basis, and she said, "Dad, I don't know how these folks do that." So hopefully this new facility will kind of renew some interest and get folks out there. So I appreciate the work that you're all doing.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Okay. Oh, and then just one last thing before we adjourn for lunch, though. Animal welfare, thank you and services, thank you so much for your time. I just know that Counselor Gilbert wanted to clarify something from agenda item 8 before we close.
Right, item number 8 about the railroad crime lighting. So those are mobile units that will be given to the crime scene unit so that they can keep them in their SUVs to use when they're investigating crimes out there on the road.
So it is lighting up. So it is crime scene, okay.
Mini lights.
All right, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.